So it's August 22nd, last school board meeting before school starts. So that's exciting. And I don't think we have a significant amount on the agenda today, other than after our meeting, we'll get together for executive session. So Dr. Kincaid, I'll turn it over to you.
No pressure to move this one along then, right? So as a part of that, being the last meeting of the summer, I did excuse the administration this evening, give them one last kind of night off here before we gear up. Officer Raz, of course, is with us, and Dr. Zona and Mr. Zamira joined us, but the principals got the night off tonight, so they were grateful for that. Folks, this is there's only 9 items on here, and most of them are pretty brief, so we can kind of breeze through this one, but again, any questions, certainly chime in. And David's going to start off with the first one. Oh, yeah, we should introduce you. Before we start the agenda, we do have a guest here. Hi, Andrew. Sorry about that.
Thank you later, Andrew.
I'll let Justin do the formal introduction.
So this is Andrew Gebauer. He is our recommendation for 6th grade social studies. For those of you who have had kids gone through, that's early American history and civics. Andrew is from St. Mary's, PA, and got his undergrad in 2018 from Mercyhurst. That was a bachelor in history and a minor in English. And then in 2019, he finished his master's in education. So he is certified in Pennsylvania in social studies and English. He has since been teaching, so since 2019 in Loudoun County, Virginia. He's taught a variety of social studies in the LA courses. Most recently, 8th grade civics, which is the same content as he'll be teaching here. So it's a somewhat smooth transition for him. He is a certified USA track and field coach. And since August 11th, I think, he has been working frantically to pack all his goods and get out of Virginia and up to Pennsylvania. And he made induction today, which was our first day of induction for new teachers. So he's had a pretty hectic 11 days here. So yeah, welcome, Andrew.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So we typically get up and introduce ourselves to you, and I think you're free after that, right?
Yeah.
Just introduce Andrew, our 6th grade social studies candidate.
Yeah. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Andrew is one of many folks we've actually brought into the district from the state of Virginia. It just seems to be one of those places where a lot of young teachers go when they graduate from either Mercyhurst or Edinburgh, Virginia, Maryland, but particularly Virginia. We brought in probably 3 or 4 folks from that same area. So I was just telling George, wages are much higher down there. He's taking a fairly sizable pay cut, with big pay cut, actually, to come back and work in this area. But cost of living also reflects that change as well. So I think I heard him mention today that they already secured a home, and so they did that pretty fast. They found a place to live, and so they're good. His wife graduated from Grove City, I think he said.
That's right. She's from Butler.
Yeah, Grove City. Now, David, first one.
All right. So the first thing we have is for a water line extension to the central administration building. And this is sort of not really unique one in one way, sort of like a change order, but it's not really. Why it's not showing this faster. So as we put the new domestic water line going to the high school from this new location. And the plan was all along to connect the central administration building also up to that line. The reason why this is not really a change order to our contract, it's something that really we planned on doing all along. We just can't technically, under the plan count rules, include it in the high school renovation contract because it's really an unallowable expenditure under plan count. So to keep that outside of the contract with Spader for the high school renovation, for the high school renovations that we're saying compliance with plan count, we're really just doing this, paying for it with bond funds, and a renovation as a district for really hooking the water line up to for the central administration building to the new domestic water line leading to the high school. So the total comes in just under $12,000. We pretty much knew all along again that this was going to happen. We were going to do this, and we knew that the best price would be to use the company that's already mobilized and working on that line to begin with. So that's why you see this from Spader here for about $12,000 to hook up the CAP.
Can I ask about the date up there? So the March 25th, 2020.
Yeah, it already happened. It's good to go. They did it on time and materials. So it's done because they had the ground open. And then they figured out how long it took them to do that and really build us for the time and materials it took to do that. So it is technically already complete. The ground was open up already. Any other questions?
Copy your lease?
So this is a proposed lease agreement with Ford Business Technologies. I have this summary here because we got quotes from a couple different places. That blue line there, which you can't really read, is for our recommendation. So basically over the last year, we signed a new copier lease contract for the entire district for the 2021 school year. Obviously, we didn't use all of our machines too much that year with COVID and really not being in the buildings a whole lot. So this last year was really the first year that we really started using our machines back up to normal. And what we're finding is that we probably are underpowered when it comes to the machines that we have in the building. It was probably one of the largest, at least issues that I heard about in the buildings, really with the copiers not really being able to handle the load that they're putting on them. So they were causing to break down often. Took parts a little bit longer to get in than expected because of supply chain issues and everything. So what we're looking at right here is really this recommendation is to add 3 more copiers into the district. And we replace all these copier machines really at the elementary school. The 2 existing machines at the elementary school, one would go to the middle school and one would go to the high school. So it really would put at least the elementary school and the middle school both with 3 machines and both with similar capabilities also. So we asked a couple companies around Ford Business Technologies, Comdoc, who we currently use for all of our machines within the district, and Hagen, which is another local company, to get quotes back. And the best one came in from Ford Business Technologies using 3 Conical Minolta machines. Come out annually an estimated cost because there is usage in there. Where we sort of had to guess on that, but we really used last year's actual data for that, for about $8,000 a year. So that will cover really adding 3 new machines in the district and all of the usage with them. And we feel that Ford Business Technologies, when we talked with the IU, who recently switched over to them, they use all of their machines through Ford Business Technologies. They've had nothing but great things to say so far. So along with a lot of their other local clients that are in education.
So Dave, then you said 3 each at FMS and FBS, and how many at the high school?
So so at the high school, there's technically 2 in the resource center, or resource room, whatever we call that. So they're more of like light production machines. And then there are 3 other machines that are used really by the staff in there. And that's really related to really the number of floors and everything in the building. It makes it easier that way. So this will put 4 machines into the high school, which would be good after our addition is open. We have really those extra floors and all that additional space. Those number of machines would probably be accurate for the amount of space that they're really going to be covering.
Are they all black and white?
So the 3 at the elementary school and 3 at the middle school would be 1 color one and then 2 black and white ones. And then at the high school, it's going to be technically 2 color ones. One of the color ones the new ones that will moving over there. Because we're taking the color one from the elementary school, putting it to the high school. That will probably be in the office area. They don't have one in the office area now. And the other color one is used by the by Denise when she needs to print color stuff as in the resource room. So just further capabilities there also. Any other questions on this lease?
Folks, item number 3 is a capital projects purchase. This is for a technology purchase. This is mainly, Justin, do you want to cover this? This is mainly just some iPad-related material, iPads and iPad-related materials.
So we typically do this motion once a year. It's really for the insurance money we collect and allows Brian to go out and purchase chargers, cases, replacement iPads when he needs to. We collect the insurance money for replacement parts, and this just gives us a motion. I think the motion's up to $10,000 at a time to go out and buy chargers, cases, iPads. It's not always replacement iPads. Our next iPad purchase would be in addition to the iPads we have because our numbers are up, so extra iPads.
Item number 4 is our music therapy contract. We've had this contract in place for a few years now. George has reviewed this for us. It's all good to go. We pay Erie Music Therapy. Erie Music Therapy. There's an hourly rate for them to come in. This is typically in the special education area. So Dr. Neese would use special ed funds, IDEA funds to pay for this service. It's about $85 an hour. I can't tell you exactly how many hours they used last year. It's pretty limited, but it's a nice service for a small group of students who can take advantage of that.
The nice thing about this contract versus last year you had minimum number of hours months.
This year it's 0.
4, this year it's 0.
0. So if we don't use it, we don't use it. There's no bill for it. Last year there wasn't any. Folks, the amendment to the Act 93 agreement, that is simply adding one position. That is adding the Director of Safety and Security. And then on a separate motion this evening in personnel matters, there will be a motion to deploy our Director of Safety and Security tonight, as well as some additional school security officers. But this is just amending that agreement. If you recall, the Act 93 agreement is the administrative agreement. So that has all the principals, the directors, the supervisors. Justin is in that agreement, Keith, Brian, Lindsay, the principals. So this would be adding Officer S to that agreement. There's a junior Tiger Boys basketball coming up. This is going to be open for grades 1 through 4. That's a Sunday program. Coach Flaherty. This will run through the booster account. This is really just the board giving permission for the program to run, much like a camp. You're just acknowledging and authorizing the camp to run. But these funds will all be funneled through the athletic boosters, and Coach Flaherty and his staff will operate that camp. We have to set an annual tuition rate, even though we don't accept tuition students anymore. This actually is our last year for those grandfather tuition students who are seniors. But we still have to set a tuition rate. We'll have to set a tuition rate moving forward as well, because there are some circumstances in policy where people have to pay tuition for a short period of time. So things like if they're building a home and the home doesn't finish in time, or if they're purchasing a home, that's a better example. If they're purchasing a home, we usually give them about 30 days into the school year, tuition free. But if that thing gets pushed down, which closings can get pushed down months, 2 months, 3 months, as we know, then they would have to pay a tuition rate in order to attend. So there are some conditions in policy where we need tuition. David and I talked about tuition for this year. Our recommendation was to keep it at $10,000 simply because we have just one family who's paying tuition and this is their last year. So it would kind of be nice for not to give them an increase in their last year. And it does fall pretty much in line with the other schools here in the area. We would probably recommend next year, because what we've done in the past is we've really mirrored Mercier's private for tuition. So we'd probably recommend in the future maybe increasing it to mirror theirs. But for this year, giving it 10,000 for that really small population. I think it's only 2 students.
Their first student cost.
So what we have, when it comes to tuition-wise, that line right there where it says the average, FSD average PE certified tuition rate, so the PE every year they calculate a tuition rate for us for the elementary and secondary levels of education. If we take the average of those two, it comes out to that $9,930, and that's based off of our annual financial report. If we look at our per student costs, as we took it sometimes, and that's going to include transportation costs, which are going to provide for this and other things that don't really relate specifically to tuition itself. So that's what a good baseline to use is to look at that certified tuition rate done by PDE, and that's the number that they certified in May of 22. So we won't get an updated rate for about another year now.
And how do they pay us? Do they write a check?
They write a check.
So like one time?
Yeah, I think they have, usually with tuition students, we had more when we could option to pay quarterly, but this family just pays it all upfront at the beginning of the year.
Some former tuition families pay it quarterly. Okay, item number 8, health and safety plan. I have nothing to show you for the health and safety plan tonight, but I shot you an email at the end of the week last week just to show you that we've been waiting on the recommendations from PDE for this, and we just got it on, was that Thursday? I think we got the recommendations from PDE on Thursday. Abby Thomas and I did meet on Friday to review the existing plan, and she will be working on a draft to bring to the board in September. It's going to be pretty bare bones this year. We have to have one because we have to have one for ESSER funds. Every district has to have a health and safety plan. But it's going to be pretty bare bones. It'll be similar to what we have now, probably with some things, well, with several things removed from there. Things like test to stay is going to go away, quarantining is going to go away. The only thing I know Abby really wants to encourage the board to hold on to in her new proposal is if a student tests positive for COVID and has to quarantine or isolate for a certain number of days, that they continue to mask up through day 10. I know that's something she feels very strongly about as a nurse, as a healthcare professional, as does the CDC and the Department of Health. So other than that, it's going to be pretty bare bones. Is there anything specifically that you would like to see in that plan when Abby brings the draft forward? Yeah.
So the child has to isolate, will they have access to the classroom that they did last year? Online.
They didn't have access to the classroom at the end of the year last year. That went away. That went away in March, April. Spring break. So they'll have access to all the resources on Schoology. They won't have access to a live feed.
Will it mention the CDC guidelines?
Will the plan?
Yes.
Like it does now, yep. Just like it does now. But we have to have our, we don't have to follow exactly what the CDC says. PDE or the Department of Health recommends that we follow the CDC guidelines. I know there are some of the CDC guidelines that Abby feels very strongly about that she's going to recommend. Ultimately, it's a local decision though. So you 9 will decide that.
So that meeting will be at our next meeting.
She will bring a draft. We will bring a draft to the first meeting, September 12th. Okay. So currently, our existing plan will be used to start the school year.
And then she'll be able to get that to us at least by Friday before.
Oh yeah. She'll probably have that done. We had a little bit of a draft already prepared last week, so we could probably have a draft to you by the end of this week. Give you plenty of time to look at it. Thank you. Other questions on that? I did look at. We collaborate with obviously with other districts in the county. I don't know that anyone's had their plan approved yet, but there are some drafts out there. And I've looked at a couple other drafts, and we'll be very similar with the other districts. Lastly, personnel matters. You will see Andrew Gebauer on there tonight for middle school social studies, and we're excited about Andrew. He does have a master's degree coming with us with those 4 years of experience. Joe Weidenborner, you see this name year in and year out because Joe is our super sub. He's been with us for a long time, and he fills in wherever we need him. And he's done special ed, regular ed, elementary, middle, high school. This year we happen to need him in the middle school library for maternity leave. So excited that Joe sticks around and help us out.
Is that senior or junior?
That is senior. Yeah, I know he has I've never met his son. He talks about him a lot. Joe's a fantastic guy. He was the Kelly Services Sub of the Year 2 years ago. He's a great addition to our staff here. We have 2 security officers to recommend to you. The first one being Matthew Fisher. Matthew has done a lot of work for us in the past. Officer Raz has hired him to do several events for us, prom, homecoming, games. We've had him around a lot. He's also subbed in a lot of local districts. as a security officer. David and Mark both got a chance to meet Matthew. Pretty impressive guy. He's going to be a nice addition to our staff. And Mark Stevick, some of you may know Mark. Mark is currently our playground supervisor at the elementary school. And as much as he loves that job, I think he's going to love even more being a security officer working for us here, Officer Rez. I will tell you that two of our applicants withdrew. One that I know some of us were excited about withdrew their candidacy. And then two were a little bit out of our price range. So, but we were very excited. These two were probably at the top of, I know they were top of Brian's list from the very beginning, and we think we got two really solid candidates to fill in. And we're not letting the ink dry on Andrew's teaching contract there before we sign him up for a gifted coordinator position at the middle school as well to work with 6th grade. Some part-time aides there. You can see the one significant change in status is Officer Raz moving from our safety and security officer to our director of safety and security. A couple of interns. The unfortunate resignation of Mark Stevick there from playground. I know Dr. Horn and Mrs. Skelly or Dr. Skelly are going to have their work cut out to replace him because that's not an easy job to fill. It's a 3.5-hour position every day of monitoring elementary care. So a little bit tricky. 3 AmeriCorps folks and a student teacher. And we are getting a nice list of ESS subs to work with us in the district here from day one. So we think we'll be in a little bit better shape. Our sub rate, we did do a comparison of sub rates just to make sure we didn't need to recommend an adjustment to the board on that. We think we're pretty good at 110 a day for our day-to-day subs and 125 for our daily subs. That puts us in the middle of the county, but on the upper side of the West County, looking at Northwestern Girard. Mill Creek's going to pay a little bit more, but in terms of Mill Creek, Girard, Northwestern, General McLean, Fairview, it puts us a little bit higher than them. So I think we're in good shape there, at least to start the year. We'll come back and we'll revisit that if we need to. Questions on personnel?
How many open positions do we have right now? Do we have any unfilled?
We have one unfilled position right now, and that is middle school guidance counselor.
Elementary art.
Oh, yeah. And is he on here? Oh, yeah, no, I skipped over that. Mr. Hinman is on there from the transfer to elementary art to the FHS technology. So a little bit of twisting of an arm, Michael agreed to go to the high school, and we're really excited. You've met Michael in here with the VR headsets and what he does at the elementary school. So he's going to go up to the high school, and we are in the process of replacing him. We think we have a candidate for the art position. Guidance counseling position, we're going to re-advertise.
So we had 0 applicants for the tech ed spot, and Michael Hinman's skills are beyond what we've seen anyway. Actually getting a software engineering degree, so he's more than capable of making that transition. And he is going to transition more from like engineering to 3D modeling. Still keeping the SolidWorks, but doing some Rhino and Blender, so 3D imaging and modeling. Still dumping it into VR, so we're pretty excited as to what he's going to bring curriculumly. And then still keep robotics and programming. So.
We'll start the year with a sub in elementary art, and we'll start the year. We didn't have a second guidance counselor anyway. We'll start the year without that second guidance counselor. The showroom staff is on board. They're here. They've started. We met with AHN a week or so ago. So we're going to have that support the high school too. They could come down to this building if necessary to fill in for some students down here. But our therapists at the high school will be able to take on a caseload of 40 to 50, they said. And hopefully we don't fill that up with all high school students.
And Monticello, is her name?
Yeah, Amanda.
Is tonight's motion for personnel, does it include all of this? Includes 2 resource officers?
It does.
As well as.
It does. It includes both Mark Stevick and Matthew Fisher as our resource officers, and then Officer Raz to move to that director position. As far as those two resource officers, their schedules are going to be a little bit different from one another, and that's why you see there in the salary to be determined up to $50,000. We had acknowledged that $50,000 was going to be the amount. The more we talked about it as a committee, though, we didn't feel that we necessarily needed 3 people here all the time. I mean, when the kids aren't in session all the time. So like the rest of the month of June and the beginning of the month of August. So Matthew, who was our first candidate, will be doing the entire period. But Mark is going to be doing basically a 10-month contract versus a 12-month contract. So it gives us a really nice blend. And fortunately, I don't know if you know Mark Stevick, but he's one of the most laid-back guys I've ever met, and he just wants to work. He just wants to help. And I think with Mark, I was telling Kelly today, I think with Mark, more than anything, he kind of wants to give back to the community. He almost would have done it for nothing, I think, but he's really excited about coming on board and helping us out. So flexing that schedule for him really wasn't a big deal. He was on board with doing it that way. I know Brian likes that idea of having one all the time and then one that's a little more flexible.
I thought that was going to be broken out for discussion and voting.
What's that?
The number of resource officers. My understanding from the last meeting. And again, I really couldn't hear very well last meeting. But I thought that was going to be broken out and a recommendation made. So this recommendation is kind of bundled in with all of the other.
Yeah, by the end of the last meeting, Fran, this was the recommendation that the board gave to us, was to employ 2.
Okay, I didn't hear that. So just
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I see they're both starting on the 29th.
Yep.
How are they going to be introduced to the kids and how are they going to start integrating themselves into that?
Yeah, that was one of our interview questions. Both times we interviewed them, actually. But good question. So they'll be here on the 29th. So we'll introduce them to the staff on the 29th. And then at the building level, they'll be introduced to the kids at the building level. Now, Brian has a plan to immerse them into the entire district. And we want all 3 of these guys, all 3 of them to rotate around, right? We want them to know the buildings and all the buildings. But they're going to have a home base. They're going to have a home base to start. And Mark's home base is going to be the elementary school. That's kind of where he's been. The kids know him already. Matthew will be the middle school to start. And Brian will be up at the high school to start. So we talked about maybe, I know Brian's recommendation was about the first 4 weeks to kind of stay in those buildings and start to make those connections, and then start to do the rotations after that. Something to add, Brian, to that?
No, just give them a heads up, to communicate and coordinate with the administration, get them into those faculty meetings at the beginning of the year before kids are back. So although, other than the district-wide meeting that we usually have at the beginning of the year, then there'll be building specific after that, I think the same day actually. And then we'll coordinate some things with some meet and greet, and they'll be visible in the cafeteria out in the morning. So they'll be working games as well this fall. So they'll get a lot of exposure, and then, like I said, we'll just coordinate some meet and greet options and things like that. So.
Can we also put them on like our website on the bottom and like our Facebook page saying, hey, meet our new guys. That way parents can also say, hey, you're going to see 3 guys.
Yep.
Not because there's a problem, but just here's our new helpers for Officer Ed.
Absolutely. Yep, we'll make that happen. We'll get them on the website. We'll start to, once they're approved tonight, then we'll introduce them as the new school security officers as well.
Part of the plan too is to get social media platform up and running.
Yeah.
More so than we have. I haven't been great at that, but I'm hoping that they can help me out with a little bit of that and get that moving. So because we all know that the kids are pretty connected to that. Yeah. So that'll be just another way for them to see faces and things. And we'll do I have some cool ideas about things like that with the involvement of social media. So.
I know David and Mark were on the committee, and if you want to speak to the candidates, guys, I mean.
They both bring a wealth of knowledge. You got one with law enforcement background and one with security are we doing our events so well known to the districts? I think they're gonna be a fit. To the balance, I don't think it's over July. I was always opposed to having three additional on, or additional 4 on. But I think having one each point is the right balance.
When will we be reevaluating the decision?
I think that'll be an ongoing thing. I mean, I know Brian will be giving me some feedback on how it's going, and the one nice thing about these positions, I guess if you look at them, these are at-will positions. They're not contracted positions. They're not collective bargaining positions. They're contract positions. So if it doesn't go well after year 1, we don't have to renew the contracts. And they know that. You know, Mark isn't as concerned about that because Mark's a retired PSP. Matthew would be a little more concerned about that. He just quite a pretty, a secure position to come here. But we can reevaluate them ongoing, and certainly at the end of the year, we can make a decision if we want to keep going with it. We need to scale it back to 2, or for whatever reason, we need to increase it. One nice thing about having Matthew on Brian's old schedule is that he will be available to work all the events. So he'll be coming to all the football games, all the soccer games, basketball games, along with Brian, so he'll be very visible. He'll get to know the kids in that capacity. Mark will have the option to do that. He's not going to be required to do that. He'll have the option to do that and get paid the hours, the overtime rate if he wants to. One candidate currently works in another building, and she told us that the more she thought about it, she did not want. I mean, her reasoning was fantastic. She said the more she thought about it, that particular place has been really good to her, and she feels committed to them and doesn't want to leave them at this time. The other withdrawal was simply the inability to make the move to Fairview. He was an out-of-town resident, out-of-town applicant. And the other 2 were just, they were out of our price range.
So on a totally different, not necessarily an extra person, but as we don't have the extra guidance counselor here, is there any thought to having one of our psychologists or anybody starting the year here, just because there's going to be kids coming in and realizing he's not here, and having just somebody extra available at the beginning of the school year would be really helpful.
Yeah, Tony and Shelby are both housed in the elementary school, but they both know that their presence is needed in this building. So we've had those conversations. Justin and I actually just had this conversation this afternoon about having an extra body down here. We hope to move fast on a guidance counselor. We just hope now that the year will have started, we'll get some additional applications. We thought we had a candidate there, and it didn't pan out at the end of the day. So we're kind of back to the drawing board there, but we will have some additional presence in this building for that. Hannah's feeling a little distressed about coming back and being the only guidance counselor here. And she's young, she could use a little bit of support. So Tony's aware, and Shelby's aware, and hopefully they can be a little bit more visible as well. And Steve and Mike are both going to be on their toes as well. Other questions on personnel? If not, the Durham employees list is attached. Those are all of our bus drivers. They do have, knock on wood, they do have a full complement of bus drivers to start the school year, which is good. I think we have a spare or 2, right? We have
1 right now.
One backup driver. So it's better than not. It's better than no backup drivers, which we've been in that position before. Mr. Lyons, if there is nothing else, that wraps up our review.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kincaid. With that being said, we can move on to our public board meeting, and we will start with pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I can't guess if we have any public comment on the agenda items tonight. Hearing none, we can move on to business operations. Item A, consent agenda items. I move board approval of the following consent agenda items for business operations.
I'm sorry, excuse me 1 second.
Yes.
I'd like to separate, if we can,
Yeah.
GSROs from the other personnel.
So we will that. Your personnel. Very good. Item 4. So what you want to do is separate the SROs from the others. Is that right, Frank?
Yes.
George?
Yeah, she's asking to vote on package of personnel items that take the SRO positions out, vote on those 2 items. Is that right, Fran?
Yes, thank
Two
you.
motions on personnel, 2 motions on personnel.
Thanks, Frank. Is there anybody else that wants to separate anything else out? All right, very good. All right, item A, consent agenda items. I move board approval of the following consent agenda items for business operations. Number 1, minutes of the board meetings. Number 2, bills payable. Roll call vote?
Mrs. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mrs. McCarty? Yes. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Mrs. New?
Yes.
Mrs. Sylvan?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes. B, treasurer's report. Mr. Romero?
Treasurer's report for the period ending July 31st, 2022. General fund current year-to-date revenues, $2,982,350. Current year-to-date expenditures, $2,809,135. General fund cash on hand and investments, $14,862,667. Current investments for all funds, $55,494,105. Capital project fund total fund balance, $6,099,668. 2021 bond construction fund total fund balance, $23,302,983. District retirement benefit account, $702,040. Cafeteria fund current year-to-date revenues, $328. Current year-to-date expenditures, $10,178. And student activities accounts at the middle school, $3,723, and high school, $49,085.
I move board approval of the treasurer's report for July 2022 as presented, as well as the capital projects report, the cafeteria report, district retirement budget, benefit account, and the high school and middle school activity account.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mrs. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes? Mrs. McCarty? Yes. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Mrs. New?
Yes.
Mrs. Sylvan?
Yes.
Mrs. Bryant?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes. Molly, have we received any correspondence at the last meeting?
I do have one small thing, just a brief thank you from the boys and girls lacrosse teams for your generous support of the 2022 season.
I'd like to recognize the visitors that have joined us tonight, those who might be joining us online. Can I ask, do we have anybody online? You have 2? Okay, very good. Welcome. Committee reports. The Fairview Board of School Directors met as a committee of the whole on August 8th, 2022 at 6:31 p.m. at Fairview Middle School. Board members present were Mrs. Bryant, Mrs. Fox, Mr. Hayes, Mrs. McCarty, Mr. Lyons, Mr. Mahoney, Mr. McManus, and Mrs. New virtually. Also in attendance were Dr. Kincaid, Attorney Joseph, Dr. Zona, Mr. Navera, Dr. Bell, Mrs. Palm, Mr. Farringer, Dr. Horn, Dr. Skelly, Dr. Neese, and Mr. Paquette. Item C, Committee of the Whole. I move board approval of the following consent agenda items of the Committee of the Whole as presented. Item A, capital projects purchases. Item B, 2021 bond funds with the cab water extension line. Item C, board office technologies copier lease. Item D, 2022-23 music therapy contract. Item E, Act 93 amendment. Item F, tuition rate for 2022-23. And item G, the Junior Tigers boys basketball.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mrs. Bryant? Yes. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Mrs. New?
Yes.
Mrs. Sylvan?
Yes.
Mrs. Bryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Pop?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes. Education Policy Committee, Mrs. McCarty.
I move board approval of the following consent agenda items for the Education Policy Committee as presented. Mental health screeners, student handbook, 22-23 annual field trips, first reading of policies, second reading of policy, and Microsoft Office for Mac.
Second,
Roll call vote.
Mrs. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Mrs. New?
yes.
Mrs. Owen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Pop?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Lyon?
Yes. Employee Relations, Mrs. New.
I move board approval of the following consent agenda items for the Employee Relations ACA Operations Committee as presented. Boys soccer trip, boys soccer uniform purchase, 2023 prom contract, 22-23 ambulance coverage.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Mrs. New?
Yes.
Mrs. Owen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Pop?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mrs. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Lyon?
Yes. Item 4, personnel matters. So what I'll do first is I'm going to read everybody outside of the school security officers. So I move board approval of the personnel matters as recommended and or read by the superintendent as identified on the personnel list with the exception of the SROs. We approve the stipulation that the positions be filled only if the program or activity is conducted as determined by board action.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Mrs. New?
Yes.
Mrs. Owen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bryan?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mrs. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Lyon?
Yes. So next to that, I move board approval of the personnel matters as recommended and or read by the superintendent, specifically dealing with the school security officers listed, with the stipulation that the positions be filled only if the program or activity is conducted as determined by board action. Second. Roll call vote.
Mrs. New?
No to the addition to, but to Officer Raz. Does that include Raz?
No.
Okay, then, no.
Mrs. Owen? Yes. Mrs. Bryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Pop?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mrs. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Mr. Lyon?
Yes. All right. Mrs. New, do you have any IU 5?
I do not, we believe have it up here.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your service there. As the legislative liaison, I just continue to encourage everybody to read your emails. There's good stuff in there. Mr. Mahoney, anything on Erie County Technical School?
Our meeting started next summer.
Okay. Thanks for your help as well. Attorney Joseph, Solicitor's Report.
Yeah, you voted on a lot of items that I've been dealing with, the music therapy agreement, the Ford Office Technologies agreement, the Bay Front Convention Center for the Throng, are all agreements that I've reviewed. Nora restored, I did this month, but Nora on that last meeting. A lot of consultations dealing with getting up and running for the start of the school year. And one thing that you can probably look for next month or first meeting in October, with the passage of the omnibus school code amendments, there was also Act 57, which requires a waiver of the penalties to new homeowners who do not receive their tax bill. And that act requires us to pass a resolution on or before the effective date of Act 57, which is 90 days after it was passed in July. So by the middle of October, we'll be looking for that resolution. And that's merely saying anybody that bought a house in the last year and somehow their tax address, the right people didn't get named, tax bill, they're not going to be charged the 10% penalty. That's all.
Thank you. Dr. Kincaid.
Yep, just very quickly, Mrs. Tobin already asked about staffing, but we're pretty excited that we have a nearly full complement ready to start the school year. We will have to start with a new face in the elementary art position, but it should be a familiar face. It'll be someone who has subbed in the building in the past, most likely. and the kids will know. So we're excited about that. There are a couple other districts in the area that are undergoing renovations right now, and there are a couple other districts in the county who have pushed back their start time to the school year as a result of renovations. We feel very fortunate that we have not had to do that. I don't say that in front of John tonight because I know he's stressing about that because he only has another week to go. But we're in good shape to start the school year. The high school's a little dusty, but it's getting there. And there's some mud in some places outside, but it's getting there. And this next week's going to be very busy for those folks, but we'll be there and we'll be able to start school on time. So that's a good thing. Good planning on John and Luke's part of the high school for sure. And something I just promised to bring up tonight, Mr. Lyons, because when I met individually with a lot of board members, I had several people ask me again to bring this up, so I'm going to bring it up for you to discuss, and that is whether or not we want to continue to have Scott or Brian come and follow the meeting. So I was just asked to bring that up so that you guys can make a final decision on that to start the school year. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Jones, anything else on your end? Thank you.
Dr. Kincaid?
Yes.
If it's going to be dusty in the high school, could a note go out at all in case kids have asthma or other breathing situations?
We can, yep. I don't think it's going to be, but if for some reason they don't finish in time, we'll let folks know.
Okay.
But I'm pretty confident it's going to be okay.
Okay, thank you.
No one from the high school here to chime in, but Justin, you've been up there. Are you confident?
All right, you're confident.
We have 7 more days.
Yeah, you're more optimistic than one.
General confidence in the cleaning crew coming in, so a lot to change in this next week. Yeah, we expect a lot to change.
You have a cleaning crew coming in.
The general contractor pays for a cleaning crew to come in and get the, it's in their contract, to get the building ready for first day of school, so.
That cleaning crew, that contracted cleaning crew, along with all of our folks who are moving up to that high school because the other building will be finished, I'm pretty confident that all hands on deck will get ready.
Do any of my fellow board members have any remarks to share this evening at all?
I would have liked to see,
Absolutely.
I would have liked to see the health and safety plan done before school started. And I know that the changes are minimal, but I feel like that would be important to have our parents know what's going on. They make choices as well.
Mr. Hayes.
I've had a couple of questions from the community just saying, how's the project going? When do you expect it to be finished? So I told them that I would check.
We'll have the clerk of the works come in and do an update at the next meeting.
Okay.
Everything's on schedule though. They're still telling us that they're going to hand over the keys next July.
Okay. If you're anticipating a longer meeting the next time, maybe we can push it out one more, just to kind of manage our.
Oh, sure.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know how long safety and security.
Health and safety should be brief. The changes are going to be very minimal, and I don't think there's much controversy with health and safety now, like it was before.
This is me.
Just one comment to make regarding the remote connection, and I've talked to Eric about this already too. If a board member, and I realize this particular board, there have been 3 of us who have had to connect remotely for a meeting. The last meeting, I could hear 2 people away from the computer, and that was it. So I couldn't hear anything anybody else was saying. And I stared at the ceiling the entire 2 hours. The iPad just laying there, so I didn't know what was being pointed to on the screen or anything. It makes it very difficult. I know it counts as an attendance, but quite frankly, nobody knows that person is there anymore. So what I'd like to see, you can all give this some thought, but we certainly have enough equipment around here to actually place an iPad in place of where that person is sitting. So when Ellie's out, put the iPad there facing everybody. So we all remember that she's there. We all can hear what she has to say because nobody can hear me. I couldn't hear anybody, they couldn't hear me. So it really is not acceptable for remote attendance.
I know quite a few of us have done that. It's not ideal. I know.
Right. Gotta come up with a better solution. consistent solution.
Briefly, are there other township meetings that are broadcast on YouTube?
Not that I'm aware of it.
Okay.
So that would be like the township supervisor meeting or the planning and zoning.
Stuff, yeah.
I don't believe they're broadcast.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, I'll just finish with then, I hope that all of those who are not here, and the kids, everybody has a great start next week. The start of the school year is always full of hope, so here's hoping for a big year. A great senior year for some of our kids.
All right, with nothing else, Mrs. McCarty stole my thunder. I was going to say thank you for doing it for me. I agree. I second that. And with that being said, next time we meet, everybody will be in school, and that's a good thing. So we are adjourned. Thanks.
Are you going to stay right here?
We could